So there I was, standing in interrogation cell 7, staring at what was supposed to be the galaxy's most terrifying apex predator. And let me tell you, I was not impressed. Commander Thain looked like someone had put a hairless mammal through a trash compactor, then forgot about it for a week. His legs, useless. His spine shattered in 3 places according to our medical scans. His ship, debris floating somewhere between the 4th and 5th moons of Arcturus Prime. And yet somehow, this broken creature still had the audacity to smile at me. You think this is funny, human? I clicked my mandibles together, a gesture that typically made lesser species evacuate their waste compartments. You are paralyzed. Finished. Your crew is dead. Your precious Earth will never even know what happened to you. Thain's smile widened. Blood crusted the corner of his mouth. You know what's funny, Krell? That's your name, right? What's funny is that you actually believed. I wanted to rip his throat out right there. But Commander Voris had been very clear in her orders. Extract information first, execute later. The Virothi Empire needed to know Earth's defensive positions, their fleet numbers, their supply routes, and this broken sack of meat was going to tell us everything. Humans, I muttered, circling his restraint chair. So fragile. Your bones snap like dried kelp stalks. Your organs rupture from impacts that would barely bruise a Virothi child. Tell me, how does it feel knowing your species sent you out here with such inferior engineering? Oh, you know, Thain coughed, wincing. Could be better, could be worse. At least I'm not the idiot who thinks breaking someone's back means you've won. The audacity. The sheer, unbelievable arrogance of this crippled fool. I leaned close, letting him smell the sulfur on my breath. You cannot even walk, human. You will die in this chair, unless you cooperate. Your paralysis is permanent. Your species does not regenerate like the Zenthori. You do not have backup neural systems like the Kroth. You are done. If you say so, buddy. Thain closed his eyes, still smiling that infuriating smile. If you say so. I left him there, sealing the door with perhaps more force than necessary. Let him stew in his helplessness. They always broke eventually. Always. 3 cycles earlier, everything had gone exactly according to plan. Well, almost everything. The human ship had been exactly where our intelligence said it would be, running a standard patrol route near the Terminus Nebula. The vessel was small, lightly armed, crewed by maybe 20 humans at most. Easy prey. We had 40 warships. The Virothi Empire does not believe in fair fights. All batteries fire at will, Commander Voris had ordered, her voice calm as morning frost. The human ship tried to run. Of course, they always did. But their faster-than-light drive took precious seconds to charge, and we had those seconds measured down to the microsecond. Our plasma cannons tore through their shields like paper, shredding the hull, cooking the interior. The ship went dark, tumbling through space like a dead fish in an ocean current. Boarding teams, move in, Boris commanded. I want prisoners. Earth needs to learn what happens when they refuse our territorial claims. I had led the first team through the breach in their hull. The interior was a mess of sparking wires, floating bodies, and that distinct smell of burned meat that humans produced when exposed to hard vacuum. We found survivors in the medical bay, huddled behind emergency force fields. Most surrendered immediately. Most, not all. Commander Thain had been in the reactor room trying to overload the core, trying to take us all with him. Noble. Stupid. Very human. My team had hit him with neural disruptors, kinetic rounds, everything we had. The final shot. A plasma bolt had caught him in the lower back, severing his spinal column as he fell 3 levels down a maintenance shaft. When we dragged his limp body onto our command ship, I remember thinking, another broken human, another victory for the Virothi Empire, another step toward conquering this pathetic species. I had no idea how wrong I was. 6 hours into the interrogation, Medical Officer Zenth called me. Krell, you need to see this. Now. I found him in the medical wing. All 4 of his eyes fixed on a holographic display showing Thain's vital signs. Something was wrong. The readings were fluctuating in ways that made no sense. What am I looking at? I demanded. The human's cellular activity, Zenth's voice had a tremor I had never heard before. It is increasing, exponentially. His damaged tissue, the vertebrae we shattered, the nerve bundles we destroyed, they are rebuilt. That is impossible. Humans do not regenerate major injuries. I know what humans do and do not do, Krell. I have dissected 17 of them, and I am telling you this one is healing. Slowly, yes, but healing nonetheless. I stared at the scans. Zenth was right. The fractures in Thain's spine showed signs of calcification. New bone was forming. The torn nerves were reconnecting. How? I have no idea. Either this human has some kind of genetic modification we did not detect, or, Zenth paused, mandibles clicking nervously, or human medicine is far more advanced than we thought. Run a full scan, deep tissue, molecular level. I want to know what is in his system. The results came back 20 minutes later. Thain's bloodstream was flooded with nanomachines, millions of them, each smaller than a red blood cell. They were everywhere, repairing tissue, rebuilding bone, reconnecting severed neural pathways. Sophisticated, elegant, terrifying. How did we miss this in the initial scans? I asked. They were dormant, Zenth replied. Indicate until his injury triggered them. This is military-grade regenerative technology, Krell. The kind of thing that costs more than our entire medical wing. Every human soldier might have this. They cannot all have this. The expense alone. What if expense does not matter to them? What if Earth has resources we cannot even comprehend? I did not want to think about that. Could not think about that. The entire Verothi expansion strategy depended on humans being weak, fractured, resource poor. If that assumption was wrong, an alarm cut through my thoughts. Security breach. Detention level. No, I whispered. Already running. No. By the time I reached detention level 3, 5 guards were dead and 3 more were missing limbs. The human prisoners, the ones we had assumed were cowed and broken, had somehow acquired weapons. Our weapon. How? I screamed at the surviving guard, a young officer named Prax who was missing his right arm. How did they get weapons? They took them from us. Prax gasped, green blood pooling beneath him. We thought they were weak, injured, but they moved so fast, Krell. So impossibly fast. And they laughed. They laughed while they killed us. I checked the security feeds. Prax was not exaggerating. The humans, despite their injuries, despite being outnumbered, had systematically dismantled my guards. They moved with a coordination that spoke of extensive training, using our own station layout against us, turning every corner into a kill zone. And at the center of it all, coordinating the escape through some kind of subdermal communication system we had not detected, was Commander Thain, still strapped to his chair in interrogation cell 7, still unable to walk but very much in command. You fool, I breathed, watching the security feed. This was your plan all along. Thain's eyes opened. He looked directly at the camera, directly at me, and winked. Then every light on detention level 3 went dark. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing the corridors in angry red. I could hear weapons fire, screams, and something else. Laughter. Human laughter. Echoing through the halls like a predator's howl. All units converge on detention level 3. I barked into my communicator. Deadly force authorized. Kill every human you see. Krell. Commander Vorse's voice crackled through. What is happening down there? The humans, Commander. They were not broken. They were never broken. This was a trap. That is impossible. We destroyed their ship. We verified there were no other vessels in range. An explosion rocked the station. Then another. Then 6 more in rapid succession, each one closer than the last. Hull breaches on the starboard side. Someone shouted over the command channel. Multiple breaches. Ships incoming. Human ships. I felt my blood turn to ice. How many? 30. 40. Still counting. Commander. They are everywhere. Thain had been buying time. The entire interrogation, his defiance, his broken spine, all of it had been a delaying tactic, while his people mounted a rescue operation. And we had been so confident, so certain of our superiority, that we never even considered the possibility. I ran back to interrogation cell 7, my weapon drawn, ready to execute the human and be done with this nightmare. The cell was empty. The restraint chair had been cut open with a plasma torch, and on the wall, written in what I very much hoped was not guard blood, was a message. Thanks for the hospitality. See you soon. Thank. The station was chaos. Human Marines were pouring through the breaches, heavily armed, heavily armored, and absolutely merciless. They moved through our corridors like they owned them, clearing rooms with mechanical efficiency. Every defensive position we established, they flanked. Every ambush we prepared, they anticipated. It was humiliating. I found myself pinned in a maintenance tunnel with 6 other survivors. listening to the sound of human boots getting closer. My communicator was filled with screams and pleas for reinforcements that would never come. "This is Commander Voris to all Verithy forces." Her voice was tight with barely controlled panic. "Retreat to the command deck. We are abandoning the detention levels. I repeat, abandon." Her transmission cut off. I never found out why. The human boot stopped right outside our hiding spot. I held my breath, gripping my weapon so tightly my hands ached. Maybe they would pass us by. Maybe we could escape. Maybe. The wall exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris, I saw him. Commander Thain, standing upright on legs that should not have worked. Spine straight and strong. He was wearing human combat armor now, holding a rifle that looked far too large for his frame, and he was walking directly toward me. "Hello, Krell," he said pleasantly, as if we were old friends meeting for drinks. "Remember when you said my paralysis was permanent?" "Yeah, about that." I fired my weapon. He dodged, impossibly fast, and returned fire. The shot missed my head by centimeters, instead hitting the guard beside me. She dropped like a stone. "I missed on purpose," Thain continued, still walking forward. "I want you alive. We have questions. Lots and lots of questions about Verothi military installations, fleet deployments, supply lines. You know, all the things you wanted to ask me. I will tell you nothing, human." "That is what I said too. Remember how well that worked out for you?" He was right in front of me now. I lunged, mandibles wide, ready to tear his throat open. He sidestepped, grabbed my arm, and with a casual twist that should not have generated that much force, slammed me face first into the deck. Pain exploded through my skull. "Here is what you need to understand," Thain said, kneeling beside me, his voice conversational. "You broke my spine. That was a good move. Smart. Tactical. There is just one tiny problem with that strategy." He leaned closer, and I could see his eyes now. They were not angry, not hateful. They were amused. "We are human, Krill. We do not stay broken. They dragged me to what used to be our command deck. Now it was a human command post filled with their soldiers, their equipment, their smug satisfaction. Commander Voris was already there, restrained, bleeding from multiple wounds. The sight of her, defeated, was more painful than any physical injury. "Ah, Krell," a human officer said, her accent different from Thain's. The interrogator. "Commander Hayes, Human Fleet Intelligence. I believe you and I are going to become very close friends over the next few cycles. I will die before I betray the Empire." "That is adorable," Hayes said, smiling without warmth. "Thain, did Krell say something similar to you?" "Oh, yay," Thain replied, leaning against a console, munching on something from a ration pack. His spine was completely healed. He moved without any sign of his earlier injury. He was very confident, very sure of himself. Kept going on about how fragile humans are, how we break so easily. Hayes nodded thoughtfully. "You know, Krell, humans do break easily. That part is true. Our bones snap. Our organs fail. We are squishy and vulnerable and, honestly, kind of pathetic compared to most species." She pulled up a holographic display showing casualty reports. Human and Verothi losses. "See these numbers? We lost 8 people taking this station. You lost 347. We were outnumbered 20 to 1, attacking a fortified position, and we still destroyed you. Want to know why?" I said nothing. "Because when you break us, we heal. When you hurt us, we adapt. When you think you have won, we are just getting started." Hayes's smile vanished. "You broke Thain's spine and thought that made him helpless. But while he was sitting in your interrogation room, unable to walk, his body was already fixing itself. His nanomachines were already rebuilding what you destroyed, and his mind was already planning how to turn your victory into his trap. We are not weak because we break, Krell," Thain added, tossing aside his empty ration pack. "We are strong because we refuse to stay broken." Commander Voris finally spoke, her voice defeated. "What do you want from us?" Hayes pulled out a data tablet. "Everything. Fleet positions, colony locations, military capabilities, diplomatic relations with other species, and in exchange we will let most of your crew live. Most of. And if we refuse, then we extract the information anyway. It just takes longer and hurts more. Your choice." Hayes gestured to her guards. "Take them to medical. Patch them up. We want them healthy for questioning. Cannot have them dying on us before we get what we need." As the guards hauled me away, I caught one last glimpse of Thain. He was stretching, rolling his shoulders, testing his fully healed spine. He saw me watching and gave a little wave. "Hey, Quail," he called out. "Thanks for teaching me an important lesson." "What lesson?" "That breaking someone is easy. Making sure they stay broken? That is the hard part. Something you might want to remember next time you fight humans." He turned away, already discussing tactical matters with Hayes, already moving on to whatever the humans had planned next. And I realized with a sinking certainty that made my blood run cold, that the Verothi Empire had just made a catastrophic mistake. We had not captured a human ship. We had given humans an excuse to come after it. 3 weeks later, I sat in a human detention facility on one of their moons watching news broadcasts about the war. The Verothi Empire had offered a peace treaty. Earth had accepted, but on terms so one-sided they might as well have been a surrender. We would withdraw from disputed territories. We would pay reparations. We would provide full intelligence on our military capabilities. And we would never, ever attack human vessels again. Commander Voris was in the cell next to mine. She had not spoken in days, had not eaten, had barely moved. The defeat had broken something in her that could not be fixed with nanomachine. "They were supposed to be weak," she whispered one night, staring at the ceiling. "All our intelligence said they were weak." "They are weak," I replied. "Individually they are fragile, easily damaged, easily killed." "Then how?" "Because they heal, Commander. Because they adapt. Because they never ever accept defeat as permanent." I laughed, a bitter sound. We shattered Thain's spine and thought we had won. But we had just given him time to plan our destruction. I thought about that moment in the interrogation room when Thain had smiled at me despite his injuries. I had thought it was bravado, stupidity, the false courage of a broken creature pretending to be strong. I had been so catastrophically wrong. Humans did not pretend to be strong. They were strong, not because they never broke, but because they always healed. Not because they never fell, but because they always got back up. Not because they never lost, but because they treated every loss as a temporary setback. We had broken Thain's spine, and in response he had broken our empire. Somewhere on Earth, in some human military academy, someone was probably teaching a class about this operation, using it as an example, showing young human officers how patience, planning, and the refusal to accept defeat could turn even the most hopeless situation into a victory. And the title of that lecture? I could guess. How to win after your spine is broken. The irony was not lost on me. We had tried to break the human. Instead, we were the ones crawling.